Are you ready?
All right, let's call this meeting to order. 8:32.
Miss Anthony? Here. Miss Bright?
Present.
Miss Clement?
Present.
Mr. Hayes? You're muted.
I'm here, present.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Present.
Miss Shaw? Here. And Mr. Stevie?
I am here.
Okay, we
Sounds
have
like we have a
quorum,
quorum.
Mr. Chair.
All right. Item 2, review approval, the 12/2/25 draft LAR meeting notes, reading minutes. Any comments, commentaries?
And just taking note that Miss Anthony just joined in.
Thank you.
Welcome, Paige. You have any comments on the minutes from last meeting?
I don't.
That's where we were, Paige.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second that. Put it a vote. All's in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Hearing none. Sounds like that passed. Let's get into, is there a call to the audience? We've been kind of skipping that lately, but let's put that on the docket. I'll give anyone a chance here if there's someone on this call that is not associated with the project on hand or with the board, as give a couple minutes to give them the floor. Hearing none. Maria, let's move on to item 4. Get an update.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, this is a proposed modification to the north facade of an existing historic building in downtown. It's in the Rio Nuevo area. It's a contributing structure, and yesterday the Tucson Pima County Historical Commission Plans Review Subcommittee, the PRS, reviewed the project and approved as presented by the applicant. Jason, my colleague here, is available for questions related to historic preservation. And basically, the proposal is to install a new exterior elevator and staircase with new door openings on that north facade, creating a new outdoor serving area on the first and second floors, and a third floor deck, and demolition of 2 non-contributing accessory structures on the north side of the building, plus new landscaping, including 2 new canopy trees along 6th Avenue. That's all I have, unless you have any questions for me.
So were there any comments or conditions on that approval given yesterday, Jason?
No, there was a brief discussion, but Jason, you wanna kick in?
But there were no conditions on that, and I would just make mention that the, where does it say there? New landscaping, Blake Houghton did ask what kind of trees they're gonna put there, and they're gonna be Palo Verde, because as Rick McLean had said in the meeting, that those were destroyed, I think, by high winds, but they're doing the in-kind replacement. But that was the extent of discussion.
And there was just a note that the applicant needs to edit on the design package that calls for improvements also on the west facade facing the street, but that's not the case, so that's gonna have to be deleted. And also there was a question about outdoor lighting, and I'll let the applicant elaborate on that. I know it's part of the purview for DRB's discussion today.
And I'm gonna ask a question before we even start. Looking through the package yesterday, there was an image of improvements to to the structure to the north, the old Wave Lab Studios. Is that included in this application currently, or is it not?
No, it is not, Mr. Steve. Thanks for pointing that out. What happened is that originally the applicant had come in with the two buildings at the same time. They are coming back to you for that north building.
Okay, great.
But because they're two separate properties, we requested these are two different applications, and you know, we have accepted this one. We haven't accepted the one on the north yet, but that's coming to you in the near future.
Okay, great. So we can disregard that image that was
Yes.
kind of it was kind of out of place, and I just wanted to make sure we're all clear on that before we start. So I think I'll turn it over now to
But Chris, could I ask a question about
yeah.
that? Just to,
Sorry, Carol, missed your hand there. Yep.
no problem. Yeah, I noticed that there was a line of trees that were shown in the perspective drawings that were not in the plans. Is that what you're referring to?
No, there was
Okay.
a facade improvement on the the smaller building to the north that was shown in one of the images, and
All right.
it's not part of this project. So when we get to the rest, we can discuss trees later.
Okay.
But
Thank you.
I think I'll turn it over to the applicant and give them a few minutes to run through it. Hopefully everyone on the call's gone through the package that was provided prior, and we can move through this. So let's move on to the next spot.
That sounds great. Well, thank you all so much for having us today. Maria, if you don't mind, I'll share my screen.
Please do.
And, yes. Perfect. Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. All right. Well, thanks so much for having us today. My name is Rick. I'm with Rhett McLean Design and Construction. I've also got Kent Healy from my team here as well. We're really excited about this project. This is the Oddfellows Hall at 135 South 6th Avenue. It was built in 1914 by Henry Gestad. It's a beautiful well-maintained building. Has a great Western facade that's a nice example of an early 20th century kind of Main Street vernacular, which I think is a real asset to downtown. And it's that west facade I think has been kind of well maintained over the years. And there's been a series of great kind of restaurants throughout the years for the past 20 years or so on that first floor, and the second floor actually has this wonderful hall space, which was the Oddfellows meeting hall, and it's got this great social space as well too, with these really beautiful high ceilings and these beautiful arched windows on the west facade as well. But that second floor area, I don't think has ever reached its full potential, mainly because of the lack of egress and elevator that's in the building. Right now, the only way to really access that second floor is through these double doors that you can see. This is kind of on the northwest corner of the building. There's a stair that brings you up there, and then there are a couple of sort of deteriorated egress stairs. You can see one here on the north facade, which doesn't actually connect to the ground, and there's kind of a similar condition on the east facade as well too. But our client has, and then the other thing that's been a little bit tragic is that this north facade, although it doesn't have quite the same level of articulation as the west facade does, it has been sort of it has received some kind of unfortunate additions, mostly kind of utilitarian pieces that were placed there over the years, both in terms of kind of walk-in cooler and mechanical equipment, as well as lots of just kind of haphazard conduits and other infrastructure pieces that are on that north facade. So our client, the owner of the building, has kind of charged us with adding an elevator and a proper egress stair in order to make that second floor more activated, and then moreover also sort of clean up that north facade and kind of reactivate the exterior space to the north of the building as well too. And so I'll kind of run through a couple. The other thing that I did want to point out, the owner of the building has been working with the SHPO's office separate from what we're working on, there's some interior work that's happening, and he wanted to make sure he was kind of in lockstep with the historic aspect. So Susan Lawson from the historic office was kind enough to kind of review the project as we were moving along as well, to make sure that everything we're proposing was in compliance with the Secretary of Interior standards. So just for location, this is the Oddfellows Hall here. It's on 6th Broadway. It's just to the north. I think this is a really exciting opportunity because there's been so much energy and emphasis on Broadway over the past few years, and Armory Park is in a really nice position. And we've felt like this one spot here too is kind of like always been a little bit of one little missing piece, that if we could, kind of help get this to the next level, I think it really sort of creates a nice connection through there, which is exciting for downtown. These are some additional views of the existing conditions that are there. This is, you can see a little bit more on the north facade with that infrastructure that's been placed on there, and sort of the south and east facade. And these are, for context, the surrounding buildings around the area. Okay, so what we looked at many different ways to run through this building, and what we think would be kind of the nicest response is to place the elevator tower and the new egress stair on the north side, but push pretty far back to the east. And that's really going to help us to add this new additional area without sort of detracting from the character defining west facade. You can see, and then to answer the question earlier as well too, it is same ownership owns the Oddfellows Hall as well as the Wave Lab building. And Maria, thanks for explaining that we did come as these things. We've been designing both of these together in the office. Which I think is a benefit overall, because I think then there's some cohesiveness, and then we can really work on that entire streetscape all the way through there as well too, and create a nice pedestrian area. So both of these projects have been considered simultaneously, although obviously for kind of permitting and logistical reasons, they are kind of under separate applications. But I would have been remiss if we didn't have a little bit of indication that there's kind of both of these are all happening, and that's why I wanted to get this in here as well too. So even though this guy is forthcoming, I think you can start to see how all of those things work together. And then the Oddfellows Hall itself. So as I was mentioning, we've got the elevator and the egress stair are placed on the north side, pretty far to the east. And one of the things that we looked at as well too is that we'd have to create landings for that egress stair and for that elevator. And so we sort of thought from early on, it'd be great if we actually just expanded out those landings to make them a little bit larger than they needed to be just for the stair only. And we could create these really nice canopy decks in there as well too, which gives people an opportunity to sort of get up a little bit higher. And you get this kind of great visibility of downtown. And even from that third deck, you can really see over downtown all the way to the Catalinas. It's a really nice view from up there. And then I also think too, as people are moving through on the sidewalk or on the street, there's another level of activation at a different scale and at a different area, which I think kind of helps to kind of heighten that area as well too. The design of the stair, elevator, and decks, we wanted to make it sort of kind of as light as possible. Mainly because we wanted to make this transparent as we could, so that as much of the existing historic building maintained through there. So it's kind of a slender steel design with glass guardrails, again, to maintain that transparency. The elevator shaft is masonry, but then we're going to clad it in vines up there as well too, to kind of reduce the sort of scale of it, and then also to help kind of soften it and create a little bit more of a lush landscape area in there as well too. You can see in this rendering too, the removing kind of all those conduits and other utilities that have been placed on the north wall over the years. And our scope for this project is really just the elevator, the egress stair, those requirements. We're not doing a new restaurant or anything. The owner of the building is actively seeking a new restaurant user for the closed Delta right now. But what we are doing is we're trying to sort of tee this up for the most amount of success by creating this area for another patio space. This is north elevation, again, showing kind of the existing north elevation and then the new north elevation with those decks, elevator, and stair. I did want to point out, you can see these are the existing doors, which take you into the north side of the restaurant right now. We are proposing a new opening on the second level, which is shown in this hatched area here, which would be for new doors to go to the second level. And then we're proposing that this window above that the sill is actually removed, and the masonry is removed down to the floor, and that creates the new door on that third level deck as well. These are the kind of the west elevation. This is all to be maintained. And you can see from the overall site, the existing building, the existing Oddfellows Hall that's here, kind of our new work that's here, parking lot, and then you can see that Wavelot building to the north there as well. So as mentioned earlier as well too, there previously were trees in all three of these locations that you see along here, although the one that's on the far south side currently remains. The two other north ones were actually lost in a storm 2 years ago, and they've been removed. And the planting area still exists for that, and we'd like to replant those trees in kind, again, just to add that vegetation that previously existed there for the shade and the vegetation along that sidewalk area. The other piece I want to point out too is that this north entry is used a lot for the restaurant. And so we thought we could create maybe a little bit of a nicer procession that's coming in there. And so the elevator is sort of strategically placed just to the east of that. The canopy comes over, and we are looking at doing sort of a new hardscape sidewalk that would bring people from the pedestrian sidewalk all the way into the space around that patio. Let's see another image here. Some of our materials for the existing brick, steel, the wire mesh. Another image of the north side. And then I've got our DP in here as well too, if anybody has questions on that. But and the development zone and the contributing properties. But I think that kind of runs through. Runs through the Oddfellows Hall. I'd love to answer any questions you have. Again, we're really excited. I think this is going to be a kind of a great project downtown. We're really excited to sort of activate these upper spaces as well.
Hey, Rick, I think for discussion's sake, if you move back like 3 images to that kind of isometric bird's eye that was kind of looking from the south or from the north to the south, that might be a good one before. Yeah, that might be a good image to hold on so we can.
Sure.
That gives a pretty good overview of the project, I think. And if we need to move around from there, we can. But I think this might be a good one to talk to if there's any discussion points from the board. Thank you. Thanks for that presentation. I did notice in your presentation you also had or in your submittal, you had kind of most of our 15, 17 question points. You had talking points to them. So we'll probably roll back to that when we get there. Okay, so I may ask you to move back there. I thought they were pretty well done and give us some talking points. So, Rosemary.
Yeah, thanks. Rick, thanks for the presentation. It's a great project. A couple questions. I was curious, the vines that you're wrapping around the tower, are they real?
Yes.
And what kind of plant material?
Tangerine cross vine.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll let the landscape architect speak to that. And then my other question is just functionally, what's happening on the second and third floors of the building? What is the use?
Yeah, so the use is a little bit to be determined. There's no tenant for those spaces, but it is the second floor is a big hall and social space that's out there. And I think that the client would ideally like to activate it into, he's talked about everything from sort of like an event space, I think would sit nicely in there too, to even like a small entertainment venue as well could be in there. So I guess overall, the intention is to get an assembly space of some sort in those upper floors.
Okay.
And
So I guess to that end, Rick, to dovetail on Rosemary's question, that you guys projected out the egress out of that, like with an A occupancy on those floors in terms of the
Correct.
the egress. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Yep. Yeah.
And Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, Rick, so in the application somewhere I read the existing use on the first floor is food service,
Correct.
and the third floor is residential. Is that correct?
It's still a little bit to be determined, but I think that there was a thought that it may become a residential apartment for the owner of the building at some point, which was one of the options that he had out there. But I think we were trying to run it as either residential or, well, I think we we're trying to run it as the most stringent, which would be an assembly space up there as well too. But it's a little bit, it's been a little bit in flux, and we're trying to as he kind of narrows down what he'd like to ultimately do with the interior of the building.
Thank you. Just make sure to touch bases with zoning in case your parking requirements increase.
Sure, perfect. Thank you.
Carol? You're on mute.
Thank you. Sorry about that. In the development package, I did not see an actual planting plan listing the actual plant species. Do you have that?
We don't have a landscape planned for it, no. That's on here.
I think from what I read out of your actual plans, the only real landscape that's being proposed is the 2 trees on the streetscape, correct? The rest would be tenant improvement level planting. These patio spaces and all these plants that are shown in this drawing are potential. They're more artist interpretation currently, right?
Yeah, more because I think that the trees are obviously required. I think the other ones are more considered amenity landscaping. I can tell you as part of our scope, we're obviously like to do the trees on the sidewalk as well as get those vines in as early as possible. And then I think most of our discussion says that we would also probably do some of the landscaping in these areas as well too. But to your point, we are sort of just trying to we don't know who that restaurant user is ultimately going to be and what they're ultimately going to want for their patio. So I think they'd like to, not do a bunch of plants in there that may have to be removed for somebody else's sort of concept for that area.
Will the trees planted along 6th Avenue, what exact species of Palo Verdes are they?
They were, I'd have to double check, but I think they were
Yeah.
blue Palo Verdes that were originally out there.
They're desert museums, Carol.
Are they?
They were. Well, they were. The one
They
existing is
were.
still a desert museum, and then the other 2 that flew over were desert museum.
So I think that's indicative of the performance of the hybrid Palo Verdes. Are you going to repeat that same species?
We were going for in kind on that. I guess my question to Jason would be, are we, I mean, that was our, I mean, if we change from a desert museum to a blue Palo Verde or something along those lines, would that trigger anything else, or is that something that'd be an acceptable approach, or do we need to stay with the exact in kind that was there?
I really couldn't answer that question. I mean, that there's landscaping division that really looks at that. I look more at just the exterior of the building.
Yeah, and members of the DRB, Rick, you need to touch bases with David Marhefka.
Yes,
from the Department of Transportation.
Yeah, I've spoken to him and he's yeah, and so we're in process on that too. We're getting a blue stake for that area per his request. And then as soon as that's complete, then he and I are meeting out there to take a look. So I can certainly bring that up to David as well.
Yeah, I think ultimately it's his call.
Sure.
We tend to give some recommendations on species for success and our, just since it's our training and our expertise, but really in this case specifically, I think it's mostly going to be up to David to what he would accept to have within his right of way.
Perfect. That sounds great. Thank you.
Right. Also, another question I have, did the committee members, are we happy with the shade study that was in the development package that wasn't shown in this presentation?
Yeah, you had, it's like a couple pages down, right?
Yeah.
There you
go. The calculations are small, but they're on the far right.
Oh, sorry about that.
It looks like it exceeds the requirement.
Especially the requirement of what shade we would want on a project like this that's along the sidewalk within the right of way, right?
Yeah.
Total sidewalk area 14. Carol, what's your question about this?
I was just wondering about the aspect that yeah, okay. I'm good with it. Thank you.
Great.
Rick, one more question about the vine. Is it irrigated?
Sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just as a point of information, I did a little experiment here at my house where I compared the tangerine cross vine with the yellow orchid vine, also known as the butterfly vine, as to which grew faster. And the yellow orchid vine far exceeded the tangerine cross vine. That is the vine, yes, that's on the landscape architecture building on the University of Arizona campus. You might consider that. I don't, it's a hard call. Vines are sort of difficult here, and that's what, 30 feet in the air that you want it to go?
Correct. Yeah. No, that's great. That's great information. Thank you for that. We did another project where we clouded an elevator. We used a tangerine crossvine. We had good results with it. It's filled out nicely. It looks great. It's been very low maintenance. So it kind of, we used to start jasmine at one point too, and it was kind of a disaster because if you don't train it going up, we had lots of issues and so that's why the tangerine crossvine worked out well for us, but I'll definitely take a look at that yellow orchid vine. So that's wonderful.
And it is a Sonoran Desert native, which is always nice to use.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sure.
Since we're talking about vines, that was a question I had, Rick. It's a little out of our purview, but I think the renderings are kind of generous on that vine coverage. And if you're using just a straight CMU block with and I think from the close-ups on that trellis for that thing, that's the more open mesh material. I think with the level of design that you guys are putting into this, it might be worth it to spend a little more of your budget on that screen to make it visually, because ultimately that vine's going to cluster on that third floor, and your second floor and first floor are going to be sticks. So it's not going to have coverage on that first floor eventually. Right. And you're going to be looking through that mesh at CMU block that, not to disparage trades, but they know it's going to be clad in something. Those joints aren't going to be super tightly screeded out, and it might not be the best visual quality. So that would be my only thing, is like, just prepare for those vines to not be covered, and maybe think about that box as having its own identity, right?
Sure. Yep. That makes sense.
It's kind of an off-topic idea, but it was the first thing I noticed on that. So,
Also,
especially if it's lit.
it's north facing, and that east side is not gonna get that much sun.
Right.
So
Right.
it's
These
not
vines
gonna
are gonna be
be as
challenged at the minimum.
vigorous. Yeah.
Right. Could we see the actual construction details of the elevator tower? The relationship of the CMUs to the mesh that Chris was talking about? I didn't catch that in my review.
Yes, I don't know if I have a section in here, but you can see the masonry elevator tower is behind, and then there's a series of angles that get applied to that masonry block, and then the mesh is applied to the angles so that we get kind of a 4-inch offset between the mesh and that masonry, the masonry wall for the elevator tower.
Yeah, well, I certainly agree with others that all your plant material is going to eventually be up at the top, and you're just going to have sticks going up the first and second levels. So,
Rick, I know everyone's
Plan
really adverse to
accordingly.
this. People are really adverse to this in our climate, but this would be an awesome opportunity to do maybe an artificial plant wall that is super complex and looks like a interior of a high-end hotel, with all the different, do like a living wall type thing. But maintenance on that's going to be an issue. It's going to have same challenges, but there's opportunity here to do something a little out of the box, but that it's a little outside of our world. I think the meshing is going to be your solution, but I could see a really cool living wall going up this thing.
I don't
That's not
know
really
if
living.
Sorry, Chris, I don't know if I like the idea of plastic plants on a historic building context. The 4x4 mesh, is it an opportunity for call to artists? I don't know. You might consider alternatives, but I personally don't like the idea of plastic plants, especially on historic buildings.
You do them in silk.
So I was wondering if maybe we could look at our purview.
Yeah, let's. I mean I kind of couch that as it's not really within our purview. It's just an item I saw graphically on your thing that long range on your project for the success of it. The vines and what that mesh is behind probably need to be looked at and make sure that it's the long-term visual quality you guys want to achieve here.
Sure.
Yeah.
I didn't have any other notes that from yesterday when I went through I did have one actually. Maria, is there within this development package any variances or changes regarding the parking requirements of this building? Because
Not at this point.
the parking layout as it is doesn't necessarily meet the standards for angled parking.
Rick, would you like to answer that question? I know there's an approved development package for the parking.
Yes, thank you. There is, and Kevin Hall helped us with this. So I think I think to your point, it's an existing condition that I think wasn't entirely conforming. But the approved development package has the 17 spaces provided, and that's what they were able to. This was actually done a little bit before we kind of got involved with some of this, so I'm not entirely sure how we worked out the parking specifics with the city.
Yeah, you're not really changing use yet, right? So that wouldn't necessarily trigger a parking update, right?
Right.
That is correct, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB. And if they were to be doing improvements on the parking lot itself, then the new parking configuration would need to meet current code.
Awesome. That's what I wanted to hear. Carol, you have another question?
Well, I was just okay. So that explains why there aren't planting punch outs for the trees that are shown in that perspective of the okay. So that will come later, but they're not. they're not doing that work now because there's really, it's just restriping of the parking lot.
Yeah, I think the plans even call for not doing anything in the parking lot, not even restriping it, just leaving it
Okay.
as it.
Okay, I was confused about that. Thank you.
Yeah, Rick, that was the reason I brought that up was that I think that sidewalk coming in along the edge to your new north entry
Yep.
is an awesome idea in that space, because it's always been a challenge there of like having people get to that space, to that side entry.
Yep.
So maybe something to look at of materials of that, of having it be something maybe more than just gray concrete to differentiate. So when people backing out in their vehicle out of that angled spot, and you have a kind of a pedestrian conflict that would, they use those bollards, but those bollards were all beat up, and
Sure.
those were always getting hit. So if you're not going to do the bollard idea of maybe something a little more visually enhanced than concrete would increase pedestrian safety of people moving in and out of that space and knowing where they need to be and where cars are going to be or not be.
That's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, what about a continuation of that brick pavers that you have at the entry?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, that might be another idea as well. Yep.
Correct. Yeah, Paige, I think we're on your idea. Let's move to our items, and let's move through them, because that'll generate some questions typically. So I'm gonna read through and kind of paraphrase them a little bit, not read all the words. Proposed buildings to respect scale of those buildings located in the development zone. It's not really a new building, but the building height and scale of that. Do we have any issues with the scale of this new condition on this building? Nope, hearing none. New construction setbacks, we're not doing new construction within a setback area. New construction provides scale defining architectural elements on the first two levels. Windows, awnings, porticos. I think you're doing a lot of that work, and it's set back from the road, or set back from the front facade. Do we have any comments on that question? Number 3. No.
Well, I did have a question actually about the facade, but I think,
Front facade, the west face.
yes. I was wondering why it was being altered significantly from the existing. And I'm not sure if there's another item that talks about the historic aspect of it.
Why it's being altered from the.
Rick, is that just an anomaly in your 3D presentation?
I mean, I think really different. I mean, I think the ownership has expressed that he's very interested in removing the purple paint that got painted over with the most recent rendition of the restaurant that's there. But I think other than that, there's nothing there's no brick that's being altered. These windows are remaining as they are.
Go to the rendering.
Yeah, I think your renderings, Rick, look like it has like a plaster or a stucco facade.
Very different color to me. It's flattened basically.
Sure. Okay. I apologize for that. Yeah, the facade remains the same. Yeah, it doesn't have the so there's no alteration of the west facade. Yeah, so I apologize about that, but the only thing that's being proposed is just removing that purple paint that's on there.
Okay. Well, that's assuring. I guess when I look at this, it looks like it's been completely, all the details have been smoothed out.
Right.
And stuccoed over. And there was a note on another sheet that said facade improvements.
I apologize about that, but yeah, there's no facade improvements on that west facade.
Yeah, I think the image that page is referring to is on sheet 24 of 33. There's a note that says exterior remodel, which on that west facade. Right
Oh,
there.
I believe that was the one that Maria had mentioned. That was I apologize, but that was an errant note. Yes, that was a copy and paste on PowerPoint. Apologize about that.
Okay.
Oh, that was the one that was noted from your meeting yesterday of your revisions of calling out the species of trees, and there was a note that needed to be revised, right?
That's correct. Yes. Yes.
And the facade, the brick will remain as exposed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So Rick, yeah, let's make sure to change that.
Yeah, I've got that note from yesterday.
And
Thanks,
any changes to that front, the old Etherton door and the front storefront of that little restaurant would be a TI level improvement. We would come back, that would come back around to this board, correct?
Correct.
You
Yeah,
good,
that's
Paige?
correct, Mr. Stevie. Any modifications that are visible from the right of way will need to go back to PRS and DRB.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Where were we? Number 3, balconies. There's plenty of balconies going on. Those are on the side anyway. Commercial building frontage, provide windows and displays. The frontage of this building is remaining as is, has plenty of glass. That single plane facade at street level, got plenty of articulation. It's staying as is. Lighting. This is one item that we didn't look at or call out. Is there any new lighting prepared for this? It seems like the front of the building isn't being touched much. It has some lighting on it, but in your patio spaces, you're doing wall mounted lighting for each of these levels.
Wall-mounted lighting for safety lighting in there, and again we've sort of shown these string globe lights, but they're actually not part of our scope. That's a gesture that again that we're hoping to we could kind of tee up the restaurant user for something along those lines.
But there is some lighting, permanent lighting that is gonna light up that back space.
Correct. Yep.
So you're not showing lighting for the staircase elevator area?
No, we are. So these are the lights that are adjacent to the doors, and then there's lights on the back of the for the staircase as well too, for the safety lighting for those areas.
And they meet the dark sky ordinances?
Correct. Yeah, they're full. They'd be full cutoff, and the majority of them are under canopy at that point as well. But yes.
All right. Hope you got some good lighting behind that elevator. Is going to be an attractive nuisance at night. Front doors of all commercial government buildings visible from the street. I think you're increasing that. You have that down pretty good. Any comments, questions on that? No modifications, exterior historic buildings shall complement the overall historic context. Respect the architectural integrity. Do we have any comments on that? Where there are some exterior changes to this building? Rosemary, you get it? I kind of like the way it's totally set, that it's set back off the building. You can tell it's a new.
I do too. I think it's treated respectfully. It's definitely something different from the historic, but it's done in a way where it's subdued, and all the steel is painted black where it's rusted, and it looks like it blends in well. I did have a question about how it ties into the existing structure. Looks like you have most of the structure cantilevered off the new tower, but it's got to tie back to the building somewhere. So I'm just kind of curious how that works.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, so the majority of it is held by the elevator tower that's in there, and then you can see there's a couple columns that come down that pick that up, and there's just a little bit of structure that comes back that makes the tie-in between the new canopy deck and the existing building itself. But we're really not relying on the structural capabilities of that existing brick wall. It is kind of an isolated element.
Great, thanks.
Rick, can I ask a question about the intent with the structural steel versus the kind of ornamental steel that's wrapping? So in the renderings,
Sure.
the hot rolled beams are blackened. Are those
Correct.
going to be sealed to try to retain that? And then like, are you going to, pre-rust out the trellises so that, from day one, that's what the public sees?
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. So all that structural steel is all hot rolled steel. So it'll all have the mill scale finish on there. And so we will go through and kind of we'll clean them and treat them on that as well too. But in our experience, that heavy gauge hot rolled mill scale finish stays pretty black for a long time. Like it will sort of patina a little bit too, but I think that actually kind of like adds a little bit to the character of that. And then all that wire mesh that's on there is obviously cold rolled, and that will weather, very, very quickly on that. And then we were going to kind of treat those angles that are clad on the elevator tower the same way. So we can sort of get that kind of the kind of two different, same material, two different finishes on that, kind of like you see in the renders.
So the intent of the project is to match what the renders are on, day
Correct,
of
yeah.
occupancy. Okay, great.
Yep,
Thank
yep,
you.
yep. Thanks.
So that hot rolled steel, eventually it will rust. Eventually.
It will eventually it will rust, but we've got several projects, handful of projects that we've got black steel that it's remained black. I mean, I've hot rolled steel at my house that I put up 13 years ago that's still pretty black at that point as well too. But it does patina a little bit too, which I think looks nice. It doesn't look as kind of like contemporary as if it was all painted black with a gloss finish or
Right.
something along those lines.
But eventually there will be rust runs down the brick facade of the building. There will be.
The
It
only
just will.
spot, well, the only spot that you could get that would be because this, you can see a little bit more clearly here. This actually sets back. So there's a piece of hot roll that comes into the sidewall there. And then everything else is concrete decking that's up there. So there's nothing that would cause rust along that entire run. So in theory, you could be correct that there would be a spot here and a spot there where that hot rolled steel touches that existing brick wall.
Hmm.
That's kind of more of a maintenance concern, correct?
Yeah, and the other point of that too is that reddish, the reddish orangish brick does actually, is very, sort of in line color wise with that, the rust on those things as well too, but it would be a maintenance piece on that.
Dan, you good on that question?
I'm not loving that idea that eventually, often I think in our design decisions, we need to look at the future. How, 15 years, 20 years, a generation, 2 generations into the future, what will this look like with rust runs? And there's going to be rust runs. I'm not loving it.
Yeah, this is all rusted out here as well too. Just gonna see if I get a better photo of.
But Rick,
Rick,
I think my professional experience is that hot roll doesn't rust with streaking as nearly as prevalently as that cold rolled will if you were using
True.
that to get that rusty color finish. But the black holds for a pretty good amount of time, and it doesn't tend to have that treat. It doesn't have that condition as often. So I think, Carol, your concerns there, but look at like how much water is really going to be on that spot.
Yeah.
The ability for it to start running down that face is going to be many years down the road. And potentially, you know. That we're
Right, well,
making, and it's a little bit out of our purview, I think.
huh. Well,
It
how far into the future are we
Ownership.
supposed to look? You know, I'm working on a public art project and I'm looking at least 20 years and trying to hit 50 years
right.
into the future. I think that's not unreasonable. Is there a way that the steel at those contact points where the hot rolled steel is meeting the brick, that it could be possibly be treated so 2 feet of it does not rust with just a clear, flat
I feel like
acrylic
you'd
paint
call more
coating?
attention. I feel like you'd call more attention to that area by doing something along those lines.
Not if it's a flat, clear coat. I mean, it would just sort of, I don't know. I just, so often I see the no, not enough attention paid to rusting steel on buildings. Oh, it's in the future. Well, look at the
I would argue that what Rick and his team are proposing related to the rust streaking issue is something that they can detail in the future with their construction documents package, because that seems like a flashing and water management issue to get it away from the building rather than it running down the facade. And since they're going to have to treat all of those thresholds of how you enter and exit the building,
yeah.
I think that that's something that is coming in the future from this team rather than what we are being asked to review today.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to that point, Dan, as well, too, the decks are all they all have drains in each one of those decks, so that because we're sloping the water obviously away from the thresholds coming into each one of those, there's zero threshold and we're sloping it away so that there's no water that comes back up against the building at any point. So the the affected area is literally the raindrops that would fall directly onto the the 2-inch piece of steel that meets that. It's not like there's any water that's sheeting back to it or anything like that.
Well, I think of the Stevie Eller building on the U of A campus and the beautiful structure, steel structure that was built above it, and below are the bulky, the nice concrete seating benches, and how those rust runs have fallen from the sky and hit that gray concrete. And I think it was just not intentional, not that bad, but still not paid attention to.
Right. So I think that's all the perforated metal that's there, which would be a lighter gauge, more susceptible at rusting. So this area where all of this, is lighter gauge and rusted, there's a planter bed below all that. So I think that rusted area it's not hitting concrete directly there at that point.
Right, I'm just thinking of the way the water runs. I think you're gonna have rust runs on the historic brick building.
Right.
Do we want that?
I'm gonna cut this conversation off, Carol. That's really kind of an owner purview. If they choose to have that maintenance issue on their building, then that's kind of their, and it's so far out. Like, is that really not necessarily a concern we have with this within our purview? I understand where you're coming from, but if owner and applicant wish to have that condition or that maintenance challenge on their end, they can engage that maintenance challenge.
Should we mark it,
Whoops.
note it as
There we
a maintenance issue to take care of potential rust runs in the future, or however we would word it?
Sure, you're more than.
I don't know. I don't agree that that this facade is going to be entirely a rusted, rust run on this as well too. So I I just don't, I mean, the majority of the spot that touches the building is a concrete deck that's in there. So there's no area for that to Dan's point earlier as well too. There's, you know, the detailing between that, you know, connection that comes in there too. Like if that gets held off by a half an inch and it doesn't touch at that point too, then that becomes alleviated as well too. So, I don't know if it's fair to saddle the owner of this building with a condition based on something that's, is more a hypothesis.
I think there will be rust runs on the building. Water goes into crevices and splashes around and splashes out. I think there will be. I disagree with that.
Okay.
It's a small detail, but still that's our business, is the details.
Mr. Chair, Ms.
number were
Clement,
we at?
members of the DRB, I can consult also with our historic preservation officer
Oh, that would be great, Maria.
and see what she says. And then, you know, staff also does provide the PDST director with recommendations. So if there's any specific recommendation that she may consider appropriate, we may be including it on the decision notice.
Okay, thank you.
Are we on number 8? Modification of exterior historic buildings shall complement overall historic district. Respect the architectural integrity of the historic facade. This project's not necessarily doing anything to the actual front historic facade. They're doing modifications to the north side, but even within that, how do we feel about complement the overall historic context of downtown?
I think retaining the existing facade does honor that. The historic
You're
context.
doing a good job.
Yeah.
I agree, and removing the purple paint and all that will be a big improvement too.
And also
Right,
all that junk on the north side,
Yeah.
cleaning
correct.
that up.
Cleaning up the conduiting and all that is something that I appreciate for this project, because that really drove me crazy walking by that. The other point I'd want to make that's a positive of this project is the plans call out to maintain the existing signages that are on the building that have been there for a long time, which I think is kind of a nice little nod to downtown. Not the old restaurant signage, but there's some signage up at the high top of the building that have been there for 20, 30 years, and I think are part of that building at this point. Building shall be designed to shield adjacent buildings right of ways from heat glare. We're doing that. Adequate vehicular parking designed to minimize bicycles and or conflicts with pedestrian bicycles. That was the point I was making, Rick, about the walkways. If you can make that really visually a little more visually apparent than plain gray, would be a recommendation I think you guys could make your design another level better for this question specifically.
Great.
But concrete versus asphalt is a bare minimum of that level. I think you're doing that, but I think there's an opportunity to enhance that. So I'm not necessarily going to call to make that a condition of our thing unless the rest of the board wants to add that.
Well, just one more thought to do some sort of like a tactile paving at the at least at the edge, where the pedestrian area is adjacent to the vehicular, just because of that angled parking and the backing up challenge. Just so that the cars would sense, okay, I'm at the edge here. I'm getting in the pedestrian area. Something tactile or textured.
I think the only issue with that is the space is so tight in there. I mean, it's an existing condition that barely meets the backup space for those angled parking lots in there too. So we'd have to put the tactile condition in the drive aisle by a few feet so that it detected on the wheel before the bumper went into the sidewalk area. So it's a little bit of it's a you know, the existing conditions are always a little bit of a tricky, you know, compromise on those. That's at least, I'm just kind of, you know, just talking out loud here, is like the things that we were sort of wrestling with as we were trying to fit, you know, cars, people, patio, kind of make this, you know, work for, you know, all the different aspects in there kind of simultaneously.
I guess I pointed out, I like the idea of identifying that clean walkway. I think there's just an opportunity to enhance that a little more.
Sure.
If you guys find the way, and Rosemary's point of it having it be a different material totally might actually just do what you're talking about. Rosemary is like, even if you're like, if you think of modern times, we're using backup cameras, right? So if the material changed and it was something totally different than asphalt, then that camera might even set off a sensor or something like that in your car that you're changing materials. Seems like they're getting more and more complex that way.
Yeah, it's a good point.
I know my car would be yelling at me the minute I put it in reverse, but
I was just driving like a 20-year-old Honda with no backup camera.
How Gen X are you?
I know, right? It was my friend's car. It had 210,000 miles on it. It was amazing. It had no shocks. Anyway, you have no visibility of the ground behind you. And that's why having vertical elements, I mean, that's not the only 20-year-old car out there. So I do think it's important to have some vertical elements. How
I
wide is that
agree.
walkway shown on the plan?
It's 4 feet.
Okay.
I
I was
agree,
just wondering.
Paige. When I
Go
have to
ahead.
drive the county vehicles, it's the same thing, you know? Like, and not every car I drive is the newest. So I think there's a lot of cars still on the road that don't have that technology, and just to preserve safety as much as possible.
And monster trucks that are everywhere in town.
Yeah.
You know, where you're 20 feet off the ground, you're not going to see the.
Yeah, they're not even attempting this parking lot.
Oh, they might.
Yeah.
Rick, as
Just
far
stuff
as
to think about.
far as your plan goes, you know, the old existing condition has those bollards kind of out there, and they're obviously been tapped more than once. But
Yeah.
on your plan, you have that 4-foot walkway, and then there's the patio space. I guess what's separating that would be a tenant improvement level decision to separate those. Could you do something on the other side of that walkway to make sure that you have some sort of stop for that backup?
Yeah, I mean, so you know, a little bit of a tenant, you know, because how they would ultimately treat all this as well too. But our thought, you know, we got driveway, we got, you know, 4 feet of sidewalk, then we've got a planting area. We did actually, you know, we were sort of gesturing, you know, we'd love to be involved in the restaurant if that gets to that point, but we were gesturing that maybe this patio is actually elevated a little bit as well too, because I think it is much nicer when you're on a patio that's even if you're just, you know, 8-12 inches off the ground, when you are say adjacent to vehicular areas. I feel like it gives you it's a little bit of a nicer experience there. And then there's another level of planters as well too. So we were trying to make you know, something that people could sort of feel comfortable being adjacent to that the parking area and cars coming in and out, without it feeling like you were, you know, behind a concrete protected barrier or something along those lines in there too. So that's the spirit of the design that we were sort of going with too. But again, maybe depending on what the ultimate restaurant user comes in on that, they may have a different plan altogether for that patio area and how they would want to handle that condition.
All right, great. This is a good conversation, I think, for you guys. I'm hearing from the board that there's some concern that number 10, we may want to ask for some more enhancement of that situation to help minimize potential conflicts with bicycles and pedestrians. Is there
Yeah.
enough here to add a condition to this?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I
Safety
thought there was
first.
actually a condition for like a 6-inch vertical difference between the pedestrian and adjacent vehicular access.
I
So,
think go ahead, Rosemary, or who is it?
me. Thank you, Mr.
Mary,
Chair, members of the DRB. So, right now the parking lot is not being modified. It's a non-conforming parking lot. However, a question to Rick is about creating new pedestrian access points. Is there gonna be new direct pedestrian access from the tower and from the outdoor seating area that lead to the parking and the sidewalk?
There's not new points because this, you know, the door on the north side exists, and then the two entries on the west side both exist as well too. And right now you just walk from that door kind of directly into the parking lot area. So, you know, to your point, Maria, the parking lot remains, it's not conforming, it's existing. We were gonna, you know, do a cut along there and pour the concrete sidewalk in there to you know, help with everything that we're talking about right now too, to help kind of create this sort of, you know, transition between these two spaces as well. So I do think it's an improvement over the existing condition that currently exists. But there's no new access. There's no new access coming in there, and the driveway in the existing parking area is existing.
So I'm asking you because I see this new pavement treatment along the edge. I'm not sure if you have enough width space for maintaining that existing pile, the parking area access lane.
I think, Rick, your intent really is that concrete walkway isn't just solely pedestrian use. It's just there as a visual marker from the sidewalk to draw the eyeball in, right? You're using it as a shared use, like a car could use that or a pedestrian could use that, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, that's 100% correct.
You're not shortening the PAL, right?
No, we're not shortening the PAL. So we do meet the minimum requirement, you know, between the, you know, the structure and the you know, the edge of the parking space, kind of as Kevin showed on the DP here. But yes, but then but it is just kind of a visual indication that like there's both cars, just like there is now. I mean, there's cars and people that walk through that area as well too, but there's no sort of, you know, visual separation between those kind of two spaces. So we were just trying to highlight that area.
I really want to avoid painting a white line along there.
Yeah, I think given all this, it sounds like it'll be reviewed later when the parking lot is modified.
It would be if the parking lot is modified, yeah.
I also think that when you look at just looking at Google Maps right now, there's elevation differences that are not picked up at this level of development for the design team that are going to, you know, when they go to CDs, they're going to have to figure this stuff out, and that's going to create some of those elevation changes that the DRB is. And you can even see there's a cold joint right there in between.
Yeah.
Where RMDC's like project delineation line is roughly going to be, right, where those footings are going to have to be and all these other things. So there's going to be something there. It's just that's not in this level of development for what they're proposing right now and what is in our purview.
Right. I guess that was kind of where I was heading with maybe adding some language onto any motion we make of that this connection from the sidewalk to the north entry door be enhanced to some material beyond plain gray concrete, but to help enhance pedestrian safety in that space. I don't know if we can go much farther than that.
I agree, Chris. And I think because the bollards were there previously and they're being removed, it just feels like we need to put something back to preserve the safety element.
Yeah, and I think the spacing of those is off, right? Like that space where those bollards are probably where these raised planters are in this patio. You know, they're yeah, I don't know that the existing versus proposed condition of that. So I appreciate the move to create that walkway through there, because otherwise, right, as stated, the condition now as you walk out the existing restaurant entrance and your your forecourt to that restaurant is a parking lot, park paving, you know, that now this provides a little better of that forecourt to that door. So I'm encouraged by the desire to add that walkway. It's just that safety of it, and it isn't any different than it is now. I mean, people still walk through there. They just don't have a path to do it on. They're just walking through a parking lot, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Just sometimes, Rick, when you start enhancing stuff to solve a problem, you create another one, right?
Sure.
It's a challenge we all have as designers, right? You want to create a better thing, but now you're visually enhancing that there is an issue here, pedestrian conflict, where you're putting a big old spotlight on it. But I think are we all kind of on the consensus? We would like to see something enhanced in that space, but I'm not sure we're all the way there to wanting to see a physical barrier, because I don't think a physical barrier is going to work.
You don't think a line of bollards would work along there?
I'm not with that walkway.
Well, it'd have to be on the building side of the walkway to give you backup space.
Potentially on the building side of the walkway, sure, to protect that
Yeah.
Proposed patio space, but I think that's more of a
Right.
tenant improvement thing, right? They may not put a patio there.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, right.
They may put another auxiliary structure and put cold storage there. Who knows?
I feel like we might have to defer this to when the tenant improvement happens.
Yeah, correct. I think I'm leaning there, Rosemary, that I would like to add when we make our motion, I'd like to add a condition that isn't that the candidate look at something other than plain gray for that material. But beyond that, I think it's a tenant improvement challenge.
Can we, if we put that in there, I think we need to define for the design team what something beyond plain gray is. Are we talking texture? Like if they, if it's more than just like, or are you asking for a color change?
Or do we just eliminate that and we just let the parking lot with the existing conditions? Because to your point earlier, maybe that if you're calling this out, you're going in the wrong direction on this as well.
Well, I think that would be, I think that would be a decision you guys could make on your development plan package, whether you want to remove that element or not. I think Dan, I think to your answer, my response would be that without designing it or giving them material conditions, I think we would need to define that, what we think that needs to be, whether it's a texture change only or it needs to be a color and texture enhancement. I think we could add all that into that comment. We would recommend a color and texture enhancement to that material.
I don't know. Could we add a what if clause if the space becomes exterior dining? It's suggested that a discrete vertical barrier be placed along.
Yeah, I think that's the tenant improvement. We would hit that when the TIs come through, Carol. I think
I'm just nervous about it, that it's just gonna, I don't know. I don't like that cars could just back into the people seated there.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, my understanding from the application, and Rick, please clarify if needed, that it is being proposed as exterior serving area at this point.
Well, we have it in the development plan that it could be, so the development plan allows for an exterior patio space so that it meets the parking requirement, it meets, all of those necessary pieces in the development plan. But I believe that any restaurant that would improve this into a patio would have to show the patio improvements in their TI drawings to show how all that comes together.
But yeah, the site plan, the development package does show right now as
it does show
outdoor seating area.
Yeah.
Right. and it was approved without any additional barriers or anything else. So I guess in other words, the arrangement of the parking area and the patio space meet the Tucson code for their requirements. Correct?
So I guess, Carol, after that bit, I think, Carol, your point might be valid that we are talking about the overall development plan currently, Maria, right?
Right.
This
Otherwise-
review is for the overall development plan. I think we could add a
Thank you.
condition that any future tenant improvements, if that patio is to be used for occupation or service, that it has physical barriers to create,
Right.
you know, that
Otherwise,
safe condition.
it's a safety thing that's going to slip between the cracks.
Well, yeah, and Maria clarified this, conditions that we would add something like that, if we added that would travel to the TIs, right? Because it'll be part of the development plan.
Part of the building TI plan.
The building TI plan, but this development plan informs the building TI plan, correct?
Yes, but would the building TI plan have to come back to this board for review?
Yes.
If you're modifying the design package as a result of the TI application, yes.
Like that outdoor patio space would likely trigger us, correct, Maria?
If they're proposing something different that is depicted in any approved design package, yes.
Yeah.
Rosemary?
I just wanted to talk a little bit more about, so just to clarify, the width of the PAL is not in compliance unless you include that strip of concrete. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay, so I think it kind of gives a false sense of safety to put a sidewalk strip there that looks like it's meant for pedestrians, but could also be used by vehicles. And I just want to throw an alternate idea out there. Make the entire drive aisle a separate material and make it tactile so that that whole area is called out as, you know, a potential pedestrian area that needs another element of safety or another element of care taken by drivers.
Oh, pull the concrete all the way up to the stripes?
Yeah. Or whatever it is.
Or whatever tactile material is selected. Yeah.
Right. And then that way people are driving more slowly and more cautiously through that whole area because of, you know, the incident of pedestrians also walking there.
I still worry about the people sitting there eating their lunch or whatever, and all of a sudden a car backs into them.
I think that would
Are
be in
the raised-
addition. Yeah.
Are those planters raised? Do I see raised planters not proposed, but illustrated in there?
Mhm.
Between
Even the deck elevation's raised, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
I
look, somebody could come down 6 and they could go through that railing that's on the patio as well there too. I mean, this condition exists all over.
Yeah, but they're driving down 6. They're not backing up and trying to get out of a sort of tight parking lot.
Yeah.
Well, technically there's a
also a
6-inch curb there, which is
Yeah.
what the division of
Yeah.
space is there. So, you know, this could really be taken care of, Rick, with just that patio space be a 6-inch curb along that edge, and you're creating as much, you know, kind of like they have here. That
Shown
6-inch
here.
curb
Yeah.
is the same protection that is afforded a patio on a sidewalk,
Yeah.
right? But I
I
still think
feel-
that's a condition for a TI improvement in there. Or is it providing a curb or at this point?
I'm gonna defend the design team here in that I think that there's just not enough information, but the finished floor elevation in that space, if you are looking, and we're not there, but I'm looking at it on Google Maps right now, appears to be higher. So in order to get ADA access in there will be a curb on their proposed walkway. It won't be 6, but it'll probably be 4 inches. So, but I don't think that the level of investigation, because that's not in the scope of this project is there to satisfy some of the questions that we have, but.
Right. It,
Correct. We're not gonna solve the design challenge on the
No.
call now. It's more what provisions do we want to add to any motion we make to make sure that it gets solved is the condition we're trying to decide, Dan, right? So have that wording and what level we want to take that to. Do we want to, you know, it could be as simple as the, you know, pedestrian and vehicular conflicts exist in this parking area. They need to be resolved, all the way to a paragraph talking about color and texture and physical barriers between pedestrian space or sitting and gathering spaces and this vehicle movement. So that's the decision I think this board needs to make is where do we want to have that comment? What level of detail do we want to have on there?
I would go for the less prescriptive and do something more general, like what you just mentioned, Chris, that, you know, there are conflicts and they should be resolved in the next phase of the project.
Yeah, to ensure, I would say that to ensure that proposed seating area is protected from errant backward motion or backing up. Do we want to even get into that level?
Right, as well as pedestrians, you know, walking through.
Okay.
Through
Okay, I think we can push this one till we get to the motion and go back and finish off these. $12 colors and overall color palette. Seems like rusted steel or black or hot rolled steel is becoming a predominant material in downtown. Do we agree that our materials here fitting with our downtown aesthetic currently? Any objections? No. New buildings, materials shall use patterns and elements that relate to the traditional context downtown area. But we're maintaining the existing historic building, so I have a hope we're doing that. 24-hour street level activity is encouraged. Any challenges to that? Not 24-hour. Maria, maybe we should look at them and see if we could get that changed. It's always bugged me. We're not encouraging 24-hour street level activity necessarily. Seems like the after 2 a.m. Street level activity is what we're trying to discourage in a lot of places. On their primary public entries directly from a sidewalk along the street rather than from parking lot. There is a public entry on the south side or on the west side, but this other primary public entrance is actually into a parking lot. So I think we have a secondary access maybe provided from off-street parking.
Yeah, but that's existing.
Yeah, this is all existing. I do think that walkway in off there is I think it's a good move in this space, but to make it safe and visually appealing is going to be a challenge.
Right.
Parking areas adjacent to buildings shall have pedestrian circulation paths between the PAL and the building with minimum width of 6 feet. Are we in this condition?
Minimum 6, huh? We have 4. I'm
Locations of all points of vehicular egress and egress perpendicular straight. I don't think we're not really changing any of that. That's not where we're at. But I think this number 1A is it's a challenge we're seeing.
Do we let me back up, Chris. Do we have bike racks? Are there bike racks being proposed?
If I remember correctly, there's 2 bike racks in front of this existing, and there's like 4 or they're right there next to the just past that fence on the
Oh, I see.
heading south.
Okay. Yep, see them.
There's,
Okay, and there's there. Okay.
they're at the post, they're at technically at the post office, but I think that's shared use. It could be used at this building too, if someone wants to ride their bike.
Okay, thank you. Between the PAL and the building with a minimum width of 6 feet. You know, it's just a suggestion that access to the north facade outdoor area be through the interior area only. I mean, just take away, people will still use it as a site, but take away the implied use of a sidewalk in the parking lot. I don't know. Just a thought. Six feet. They're saying 4 feet. It's only 4 feet wide.
Rick, is there ability to widen that walkway south? All you're doing is you're
No.
eating into that,
Mm.
you're eating into that seating area, right?
Well, yes, you'd be eating it. And then also, it goes along, it runs along, in front of that elevator tower as well, too, to kind of, pick up the entire length there too. So that would be the dilemma with that.
This is challenging, this one.
This is.
And Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, this is something I would like to double check with the zoning administrator. Because again, this is a non-conforming parking
Yeah, it's not like we're adding a parking
area.
lot, right?
Yeah, however, new pedestrian circulation is being proposed from the tower and the outdoor seating area.
And it seems odd that the development of the parking area is in the future when yet it's being impacted now by the proposed development. It just makes it really difficult.
Carol, I think ultimately the plan is that there's no changes to this parking lot.
But they are. They're already changing it.
By adding this walkway?
Yeah, I think so. I don't know, it just, safety first for me, always.
Yeah, I think because it's non-conforming, I want to go back to the idea of the tactile paving through the whole drive aisle. Just to throw that out there as a safety solution.
It still doesn't get us past this 1A.
Correct.
No, it won't.
Which is pretty
we
straightforward.
I don't know.
I don't
Maria,
think we can.
what is your conversation that you want to have?
With the zoning administrator regarding this all parking area access lanes. It's an existing parking lot, however, new pedestrian circulation path is being proposed. So my understanding is that they would need to meet this, but considering the tightness of the space, that's something I would like to consult with the zoning administrator.
Okay,
But the DRB is able to provide recommendations regarding this. And then, I just would need to consult with my colleagues.
All right.
Well, I'm wondering if that's enough of a concern that we table until you can get input and direction.
I mean, I think the recommendation is still ultimately a PDSD director's decision. So, I mean, you guys could make a recommendation and the PDSD director can still tweak it. And it's probably already an ad hoc pedestrian pathway.
It's ad hoc, but this is distinctly saying PALs need to be separated by a minimum of 6 feet.
Right.
Is that for new construction though? I mean, this isn't a new parking lot. So I feel like
And that's why I need to consult with the zoning administrator.
Yeah.
It doesn't call
Yeah,
out for
it's-
new, but it's there.
But it is, another area I would like to double check before we move to vote on this, and that would be returning back to the idea of rust runs on historic buildings. Is there a historic preservation officer in on this meeting, sitting in on this meeting?
No, Jason is
Okay.
here
All right.
as a lead planner.
What is the past precedence for addition of metal that's going to eventually rust on historic buildings? Is there a precedent? Where do we see it? Has it been done before? What?
Carol, we do it on almost every project we look at on this board.
But I know, but what about a historic
Almost
building?
almost every building we look at on this board has had new shop windows with steel on them, like
But
historic
often
buildings, non-historic.
that steel is painted, Chris, so it's not going to rust. It's not
No.
hot rolled mill skin
That-
that's going to eventually
There's
rust.
multiple examples of Chris's point within a few like sight lines of this project. So where there is rusted metal.
On his designated historic building,
Yes.
such as?
This is kind of an errant conversation, but if you want to look
Yeah,
across the street at the former Shot in the Dark Cafe, which we looked at a couple weeks ago.
I do think this is a
brewery there,
maintenance
so.
issue.
Yeah.
Carol, that rust streaking down a building can be mitigated for when
Okay,
it happens. You know, if it starts to happen, that can be mitigated for and keep the remaining or maintain the clean facade if it's done properly.
all right. Do we want to add that as a
Yeah.
conditional phrase that future rust streaks be mitigated?
I think that's outside of our world.
Okay, all right. These things I don't know.
That's kind of more development zone or development, you know, so I'd like the trees to all be maintained perfectly too, but there's not much I can say about that.
True.
You know what I mean? Like if we
Yeah.
want to break it down, like there's only so much we can do at this board,
Right.
this level of board of saying you need to maintain your property 100% correctly. We just have to react to what's being put in front of us. And I think that the challenge we're having right now is this vehicle pedestrian, and that's the bigger challenge. And that's not one we deal with very often. And I think the intent of this section of this 12.7D is really for new construction, but it's not distinctly identified as that. And this minimum width of 6 feet. And I'd like, Maria, I'd like to have a definition of what it means when access lanes are adjacent to the building. We could also make the argument that this PAL is not necessarily adjacent to the building. It's offset by 12 feet. It's adjacent to an elevator shaft. It's not adjacent to the building.
But
that elevator
adjacent
shaft
to that.
is people occupied. I would think it would.
Right. Is it occupied space? Is it the actual physical wall of the building, or what? Or are we making a big deal about a 6-foot path that we may not be needing to?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, my recommendation would be for the DRB to issue a recommendation and then allow staff to talk and discuss with the PDSD director and the applicant to come back with a way to mitigate any potential conflict between pedestrians and cars in the pile. But it's up to you, or if you're requesting the applicant to come back with a specific design.
Is that concrete walkway is delineated in the actual black and white CAD drawings, right? In the development plan. It's not just in
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, it's in the development plan right here. Yeah,
Yeah,
it shows that.
yeah,
new-
it's
new
actually
line.
it's in your actual submittal drawings, not just the visual
Correct.
renderings.
Yeah, that's correct.
Oh, okay. What is it? 14? No, 3.
Is it already approved in the development plan?
Correct.
And
Well,
Ms.
that
Ryan,
yeah,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chair, members of the DRB, there was an error on our system. It was approved before it went through RNA review. So I already sent Rick a note sometime last year that he will need to resubmit, so then design can review these plans after going through the RNA review process.
But just to clarify that, Maria, it was reviewed from a technical code process
Correct.
from the city requirements.
Engineering and
DTM,
zoning and fire
yeah.
and all those involved already reviewed this and approved
Reviewed and approved it. Yeah.
it. Except for design.
Right.
So I see on note 15,
Yeah, 6 feet.
6 inches.
Inch concrete.
Oh, 6 inch,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
Mhm.
So it's vehicular rated concrete. I'm
Yeah. There's a lot we don't. Yes, Chris's point here is very evident. Is it the 6 feet from the building, or it does the new elevator staircase structure? 6 feet from that, it's, I don't know.
And the opening to the elevator is here, this landing to the stairs here. So anybody, it's not like, just to clarify, you're not opening the elevator and walking directly into that area. You do actually, you are more than 6 feet by the time you sort of start your journey from outside this area to that parking area. You're 8 feet away.
And Mr. Chair, members of the DRB, I'm gonna have to run now. And,
Yeah, you're late for a meeting.
Gabriel is here to help me out. So Gabriel, can you share your screen with the agenda?
Yeah.
I apologize. And while Gabriel does that,
That's not the right one.
just for
Oh, okay.
my section of the staff updates. So as you know, the building north to this is gonna be coming to you in the near future as well. But also the Stravenue Social on the Sunshine Mile District. It's also historic buildings, and they're proposing, it's more than one historic building, and they're proposing a combination of food service and alcoholic beverage service and some commercial recreation. So that's coming your way also in the near future. Right now it's being reviewed by the design professionals, and tentatively we have the PRS scheduled for February. So sometime in late or early March, late February or early March, you may be seeing that project. And if that's okay, I would like just to take over.
Thanks, Maria.
No,
Thanks,
thank
Maria.
you so
Maria.
much. Thank you,
Thank you.
Gabriel.
Yeah, no worries.
Thank you, Rick. I'll be in touch.
Thanks, Maria.
Thanks.
I think, Gabriel, we're on the next section. If you're on control screen.
Where we at? Here?
Yeah, we're on 1A, 1B, onto 2. I think let's hold this conversation, or let's make through the rest and then come back to how we want to handle this. And let's make sure there's not anything else
Right.
on there. parking, downtown district allows reduction number of parking spaces, screening of parking.
Gabriel, could you zoom in a little bit?
Sure.
Thank you.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you.
I think these are generally for the screening of all parking, since there's not a change. I don't think they're required to add any screening to this parking.
Correct. It says all new parking.
Yeah. Oh, I missed that word. Thanks.
Yeah, and I feel like this whole section is about on the parking, just to kind of go back to that point.
It is,
So.
it is, and that's where I'm thinking that 1A. I mean, 1A and these ones tie together to, prior. So it was number 10 on the last set that was the one that originally teed off that conversation. So that minimum 6 feet just accelerated that or enhanced that conversation. There's employee parking. They're going to have to find their employee parking. This is all patron parking. Plazas, pedestrian nodes. This is for new construction. And either way, I feel they're starting to provide outdoor plazas and public open spaces that enhance this space, right? Then is that the last one, 3A? I think that's the last one. There's no 3B.
The B.
Can you
Can
scroll?
you scroll up just
Yep.
a little? Oh, there it is. There, yeah. Views and corridors. Your top plaza space brings views of the Catalinas, so. But I think this adds enhancements, linkages visually. Is there any challenges with B and C? Like we're good there.
We're all good.
Streetscape enhancements proposed to remain as is, correct? Which has no change. And you met the shade study.
Yep.
Overall, I personally think this project's a great project. We've spent some time on a safety issue, but I think my personal feeling is that we should let this one pass through. I think we need to figure out what provision we want to add about communicating with the zoning director about our concerns about the pedestrian and PAL safety. I don't know how far we want to go with that, what wording we want to put on that, but that's kind of where I think we're headed, right?
I agree, and I don't think we need to make them come back. I think we just need to include some verbiage about, getting that squared away and in clarifying the requirement and then complying with it.
Okay. Any ideas on verbiage?
Was somebody documenting the items that we had issues with? Or are there any that we need to include in this?
Yeah, it was that 1A of which section is it called, right? Could you go
Yeah.
there, Gabriel? 15, there.
And that's the only item.
1A, and then the one that was the one number 10 in the section above was the one that started the conversation. Vehicle parking areas designed to minimize conflicts with pedestrians and bicycles shall be provided.
Yeah.
I think this one still gets to the point, shall be designed.
Yeah.
We're in an existing condition, we're adding this
Yeah.
walkway, it's like, is the existing condition less safe or more safe? If we take as Rick was saying, if we just take that walkway out, is that from the design standpoint, is that as safe or less safe or more safe? What's our concern necessarily is that I feel like we're putting the more we talk about it, the more I'm putting in concern of a hypothetical that a person backing out of that space is going to be there at the same time someone's walking in, creating that conflict. It's the 1% of it, if it happens, it's that one time that happens is terrible, but all the other conditions we have of that, it's a condition that already exists.
When I first looked at this proposed plan, I thought, oh, elevator, staircase, very cool. But immediately when I saw that gray strip of concrete running parallel to the north facade of the building, I immediately thought sidewalk. Oh, I'm going to walk down there. I'm going to find an entry down there.
Right.
I think if nothing else, we could eliminate that and then I don't know, does that make it safer?
Well, that's the question we have is
right.
Is that,
So there's two
Yeah,
8-footers here, and then the 12. Yeah, the stud.
Oh.
Oh, there we go.
I think it creates an assumption, right? It creates an assumption that this is a pedestrian place and it's safe for pedestrians to walk here. And because, it actually is in part of the PAL, I think it's not. It's part of the vehicular lane, and maybe removing that entirely or making it the same as the drive aisle paving while also calling attention to it being a pedestrian area would be better.
Right. I'm trying to figure out how to word this concern in a way that gives the power more to the design and the zoning director to solve the challenge. Like, we're not going to design solve it. We just need to identify it, right? And that
the implication of the proposed 4-foot wide concrete path be removed and shown as a material that is cohesive, the entirety of the parking area.
This is a question for Rick. And again, looking at the images, we're all assuming that this is an asphalt parking lot. It appears the existing condition is concrete. So what is being proposed matches the existing condition. Is that correct?
I think it would be just a differentiation between it's going to be like that concrete that exists there is pretty old and pretty beat up, and then you have a new concrete that's there. So that would be your differentiation.
Okay.
Where I think, Rosemary, I think your idea of expanding that material to is a solution that would work, but it's not one I want to stay within our lane and say that it needs to be solved, but potential solutions aren't necessarily something we've done in the past. We're identifying we have a challenge with this provision, how the project team and zoning administrators get to a place that those two feel as solving the challenges that we identify is kind of where I want to figure out language for it.
So can we just talk about our concern and say we have a
Yeah.
concern that the proposed 4-foot sidewalk creates
Creates
an
an
implication.
potential unsafe condition.
Yeah, because it implies a pedestrian walkway when in actuality it's part of the drive aisle. And let them solve it.
That works for me.
You know, we spend a lot of time talking about this stuff. We end up coming up with the one sentence that fits it all. And it always blows my mind that I was like, oh, why didn't we just say that 25 minutes ago? But
No.
we didn't know the answer yet. So Rick, I appreciate you sticking around for this conversation. We kind of went all the way around in a circle, but Rosemary, I wrote that, I wrote your statement down, or I was kind of dictating it. And I agree with it and I like it. Carol, you're there?
Yep.
Dan?
If you want to read over it one more time before we read the motion.
I
you
will,
might-
but what Rosemary
Okay.
just said pretty much is where I'm trying to
Yep.
get.
Yep, I'm good with it,
Dan,
with
do you have
that direction.
any thoughts on that? What Rosemary just said, if that's where we want to go?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Paige?
I'm good. I have
Okay.
to go. We still have quorum though if I leave, right?
1, 2.
2,
There's
3,
like
4.
Oh, Kate, I skipped you on my picture list here.
Yeah, I'm good with it. I think we could be pretty vague. I mean, really, it's the final determination is compliance with standards and should be reviewed by zoning. Like it's not in our purview to design this thing, to tell them what texture, anything. It's like, really, this is our concern and that's it.
I agree.
Chris, if I could add, our concern, if you could emphasize our concern for the safety of pedestrians in a tight parking area, I think that
Yeah.
I think
have
we
that
need
in
to
here.
make that clear that, hey, man, you guys need to look at this. Is it safe?
I want to add that just in general, I think Tucson needs more outdoor dining areas, and this has always been an issue. This if any of you have eaten there in the past, it's always been chaos in that parking lot.
Yeah,
to the
it
point where
has.
most people would avoid it, and so I don't want to make it too hard for people to do good things for these tight urban spaces. Downtown is going to get more dense and more complex. So again, I appreciate the dialogue and working it out and the safety, of course.
Yes. Safety
Kate, I
first.
think I'm there with you on that.
This is better than it was. It's better than it's ever been since I lived in Tucson for the last 25 years. And we need to be part of moving these things forward.
Right. I do appreciate the conversation and being back around to like, we need to figure that out on how that walkway works. My initial thoughts on that walkway, whereas I appreciated the walkway because it does do that condition that was being talked about. If I'm walking along the sidewalk, walking along the brick sidewalk, and I see that, and I'm like, that's how I get to the door of this new building. It's a visual representation of that, but it does present the conflict that we've been kind of hashing out, that now you're telling people it's a pedestrian walkway, but really it's a shared area of cars and pedestrians. So there is a potential conflict there. So I think having them look at that, and Rick, you're purview to all of this conversation. So now you know what our concerns are, and from a design standpoint, us making a recommendation on this, and you working with the zoning administrator for a final decision on all this stuff, you can be churned in your head potential solutions or talking points to have with them of what our concerns were. I don't think we've come up with anything that's super, you know, out of the box or crazy here.
What about the
Yep, that all
6 foot
sounds good.
thing?
Yep.
Chris, where are we landing with the 6 foot minimum thing? Did we?
I kind of think it all under this one statement, it kind of all gets in there of like that there's some conflicting language in our design standards.
Right, and I think Maria will still check back on
Oh,
that.
that's right.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. Yes.
I need to put on my glasses. I can't even read what I wrote. Well, probably not following Robert's rules here too closely, which we never do. I'm going to read off what I wrote down, and I think that will ultimately, so this is a draft of a condition we want to add. I think we're all in agreement. We want to pass this through. It's a good improvement to this building, and this is the condition I think we should add to the motion, right? Or should I just make the motion and we can edit and modify as we go? How do you guys want to handle that?
That sounds
say-
good to me.
Just read it. Yeah, just make the motion.
Okay. I have the proposed 4-foot path from sidewalk to the north door creates a potential unsafe condition. It implies a pedestrian walkway when it is actually part of the POW. And there is a need to resolve conflicting language and design standards of new versus existing conditions in parking.
Yeah, and then do we want to cite the point that we were referencing where we think the conflict lies, which was 1B of,
1A.
or 1A rather, of section 5 point,
D.
well, yeah, D.
Chris, is it possible to read that again, slightly more slowly?
Probably could have typed it. That would have worked, right? Could have just copy pasted it in.
Well, I don't
Okay.
think he's made the motion yet, right? He
I
hasn't
haven't made the motion yet. That was draft language.
Right.
So on that second part of it, we do want to add in the code section the 5.7. It's the second one, 512.7C or 512.7D.
Right, D and then 1A.
D1A, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And where does the number 10 come in? The 10 above that 1A.
I think
This-
10 was the basic bulk of it, right? The
Yeah.
proposed 4-foot path creates a pedestrian conflict.
Yeah, so that's section S 12.7.C.
Okay. C number 10.
I believe so. I believe that's
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chris.
I guess since I have the notes here, I'll read the motion if that makes sense, everyone.
Please do.
Okay. Gabriel, keep your screen tight. I'm reading this. Design Review Board has reviewed the applicant's project for compliance with Rio Nuevo area design criteria and recommends the Planning and Development Services Director approval, finding the project in compliance with the design standards set forth in UDC sections 5.12.C or 0.7.C 1 through 15 and 5.12.7.D, subject to the following conditions. Per section For 5.12.7C, number 10, proposed 4-foot path from the sidewalk to the north door creates a potentially unsafe condition, implies a pedestrian walkway when it is in fact part of the POW. And section 5.12.7D 1A
Mhm.
requires resolution, the conflicting language if it pertains to new versus existing work. Any edits?
Yeah. Okay, and the per section 5.12.7C10, it's good propose, but I would make it a little more implicit. Proposed 4-foot path from sidewalk to north door creates a potentially pedestrian, add the word pedestrian unsafe condition, and implies a pedestrian walkway when it is in fact part of the POW. I would just hit them hard with pedestrians.
I'll accept that amendment.
That's my little comment.
Any other amendments?
Do we want to add, the person reading this may not understand that for the next part, we're not sure what is a 6-foot, where is the 6-foot measured? Is it measured from the building or the proposed new elevator structure? They mean, if I read that, I wouldn't understand.
I'll add some stuff, Gabriel, after the word language.
Yeah.
Regarding the definition of a 6-foot. Is it a 6-foot path or a 6-foot walkway
Pedestrian
and-
walkway.
or pedestrian walk? And I hold on.
From
I'm
where
gonna
it
think out
is
loud.
measured, where is
Yeah,
it
and
measured?
from where that is measured.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes. Any other amendments? Hearing none, let's run to a vote. All
Second,
those in favor, aye of this motion? Or was there something?
Hi.
I second the amendment, or sorry.
Oh, sorry, you forgot to even get a second, right?
I second the motion.
Okay, thank you, Rosemary. Now I'll move to a motion, or move to it. All in favor?
I,
Ayes. Any opposed? 0. Gabriel, that's a 5 on the ayes.
Oh, pardon me.
So Rick, you have your marching orders. Thank you for sustaining us through this conversation.
Great. Thank you guys all very much.
As personally from my point of view on this one, I echo Kate's stance that this is a cool improvement to the existing structure downtown that's historically been very active and has not been for recent years. And I appreciate all the work that you're putting into this. Let's just try to figure out this pedestrian conflict, and I think you guys will have a great project.
Thank you so much. I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too, Rick.
Yep. Take care. Thanks.
Thanks.
Have a good one.
we already got staff announcements taken care of, right? No, that was what Maria was doing before she left.
Well, I do have a staff announcement, and I'll keep this brief. And this is for the members of the board. And if you are engaged in any ground disturbing activities that impact cultural resources, there will be a cultural sensitivity training this Monday. It will be Monday morning. It will be given by members of the 4 Southern tribes. And it begins at 8 o'clock, which is kind of come early and coffee and donuts, but it will begin at 8:30 and it goes to 11:30 a.m. This will be at, or is it the Tucson Fire Central at 300 South Fire Central Place. So if you are involved in any ground disturbing activities, this might benefit you to come to this training held by these members of the 4 Southern Indian tribes. And that's all I have.
This reminds me, I need to update my 811 training. Anything else? No. I appreciate the conversation today. I thought that it took a long time, but safety is one that I don't think we should pause on. And if we have concerns, like we had that long of concern of a conversation about a paint color, I'd be concerned with what we're doing here. But a conversation that long about safety or pedestrian and vehicle conflicts is one I'm willing to hash out until we get to an answer. So apologies for taking a long meeting, but I think we got to a good point.
I
With that,
agree. And
let's adjourn 10:38.
have a great weekend.
Thanks, you too.
Bye, everyone.